Welcome to Reddit Stories, where OP's wife is demanding he learn how to cook. Am I the jerk for not learning how to cook, even though my wife insists on it? I'm a 30-year-old guy. My wife and I have been married for 5 years. No kids, just 2 spoiled cats. We've always had a really solid arrangement when it comes to chores. She handles most of the indoor stuff like laundry, vacuuming, dishes, and I take care of everything outdoors like yard work, repairs, taking out trash, cleaning the car, and so on. We're both pretty clean people, and we've never really had any fights over who does what. I say all this up front to paint the picture clearly. I'm not some bum who depends on my wife to handle everything. A couple of weeks ago, we went to one of her friends' houses for dinner. Her friend's new boyfriend is a professional chef. The guy cooked up this whole meal from scratch: peppercorn steak, creamy mashed potatoes, garlic sautéed spinach. It was legitimately amazing. No arguments there. But ever since that dinner, my wife's been dropping comments here and there about how nice it must be to have a man who cooks like that. I thought she was just impressed and joking around, but it kept coming up. She started making not-so-subtle suggestions that maybe I should start learning to cook properly. I told her that I already do cook: pasta, eggs, bacon, burgers, basic stuff. We both usually keep it simple because neither of us are trying to spend 2 hours on dinner after work. She doesn't cook fancy meals either, so I didn't understand the sudden pressure. Now she's saying that it's not about the food, it's about the gesture. She says she wants to feel like I'm willing to make an effort, that it would be romantic if I learned how to make something special just for her, that her friend's boyfriend does it because he cares. I told her that's kind of a ridiculous comparison because that guy is literally a chef. I'm a welder. If she wants a gesture of love, I can weld her something nice. She told me, "That's not the same. You can't eat weldings." I honestly thought that was funny and said, "Well, I guess we're both stuck with what we married then." She didn't laugh, and she's been quiet ever since. Now I'm wondering if I'm missing something here. I don't want her to feel unloved or unappreciated, but it also feels like I'm being compared to some ideal that I never signed up for. Do I really need to learn how to cook gourmet meals just to prove that I care? Am I the jerk for not learning to cook? Not the jerk. You're a welder, not Gordon Ramsay. There's nothing wrong with wanting to improve or do something special for your partner now and then, but feeling pressured into it because some other guy happens to be a chef is not fair. Everyone brings their own strengths into a relationship, and yours might not be found in the kitchen, but that doesn't mean you care any less. If she wants gourmet dinners, maybe you two can take a cooking class together and make it a fun experience instead of a competition. Not the jerk. This feels like it's about more than just fancy meals. It sounds like your wife is craving a sense of effort or romance, and the cooking thing is just how that's showing up right now. You actually come across as really thoughtful and level-headed, so it might help to sit down and have an open conversation about what's really going on underneath. Ask her why this matters so much and what she's really feeling. Sometimes people latch on to specific things when they're trying to express something deeper. Even if you cooked her 5-star dinners every night, if that root feeling isn't addressed, it's likely to pop up again in another form. Loops keep repeating like that until it's healed at the source. Update 1 month later. First off, I want to thank everyone who took the time to leave a comment. Some of you really helped me look at things in a different light. Instead of sticking to my own thoughts and trying to defend myself, I decided to just sit down with my wife and really listen. I told her I love her deeply and I care about how she feels, and I wanted to understand what this was really about. I reminded her that we've never had issues like this before, and that I wanted her to feel completely loved, not because I did something fancy or impressive, but because she matters that much to me. She started crying and told me that there was more behind it than she had originally said. She explained that years before we met, she had a boyfriend who I already knew about. What I didn't know was that he used to cook these elaborate meals for her. She said those dinners made her feel so special at the time, like she was the most important person in the world. That night at her friend's reminded her of that feeling. She told me it wasn't about missing her ex, and she didn't want to bring him up because it felt stupid, but she just wanted to feel that special again. I'll admit, my first instinct was to say something like, "You mean the guy who cheated on you with your friend?" But I didn't. I kept that to myself, and I just focused on what mattered. I told her, "I want you to feel special because you are. You're the most important woman in my life, and that's why I married you. But I also know myself. and I wouldn't be happy spending hours trying to cook like a professional chef. My love for you is real. It's not something I need to prove. I might not be a gourmet cook, but I'm loyal, and I give everything I have to this life we've built together. Let's not let the past mess with the present. If you want, we can try cooking something fun together, but I'm not going to do it alone because it should be something that we share, not something I do to impress someone. She sat there quietly for a while, then looked at me and apologized. She told me she had let her thoughts take over and forgot to appreciate everything we already have, that she got caught up in some idealized version of the past and let it cloud what's real. She said I'm a better man than her ex in every single way, and that it was never about the food. It was about the feeling she was chasing. She told me she's lucky to have me, and she's sorry for letting that slip from her perspective. We hugged, and she held me like she didn't want to let go. It felt perfect. And get this, about a week after that, her friend, who had hosted that dinner, told her that she had just broken up with the new chef boyfriend. She had looked through his phone and found out that he was cheating on her with his ex. He had even been cooking the same signature meals for her. Sometimes life just has to throw everything into chaos before it brings truth to the surface. I think we're stronger now for having gone through this. But if I had let my emotions get the better of me, this could have been a very different type of update. I'm really proud of you for how you handled this. You stayed grounded when it would have been so easy to either cave to keep the peace or lash out and make it worse. But you didn't do either. You held your boundary without closing your heart. That kind of calm clarity is powerful. Emotions can be loud and chaotic, but the truth is steady and unshakable. That's how you can tell what state someone is really speaking from. And your steady presence gave her space to see things clearly on her own. You didn't just fix the surface issue. You helped heal what was underneath. That takes strength. Well done, truly. You know, Karen, staying calm is so underrated. When you don't get pulled into the chaos, people either rise to meet you where you're at, or they just sort of drift away. Totally. And that's okay. Not everyone's meant to walk the whole path with you. Most people are just passing through a chapter or two. Same goes for us. We'll only be in our listeners' lives for a little while. Maybe so, Reddit boy. But even a short chapter can change the whole story. Sometimes all it takes is one sentence to shift the way someone sees the world. I, 23 female, told my boyfriend who's 25 that I won't get a job to make him feel less jealous of my financial situation. English isn't my first language, and I'm not great at writing, but I seriously need advice from people who don't know us personally. I've been dating my boyfriend for a little over a year. We met through mutual friends, and things were pretty normal at first. Our relationship wasn't perfect, but we didn't argue much. He works as a restaurant manager, and I'm still in university. His life has always been hard. He grew up with alcoholic parents and never had much support. From the moment he became an adult, he had to work for everything. College wasn't an option. He needed to earn a living. My situation is different. I come from a big, supportive family. When I started university, my parents continued helping me financially. They cover some bills and give me a bit of allowance. Sometimes my grandparents, aunts, and uncles pitch in with gifts or care packages. I spend most of my time on campus, and I also tutor 3 times a week, which covers groceries. I live simply and I save well, so I don't really need much. This background matters because it's where our problems started. About a month ago, my boyfriend began making little digs at me. Stuff like, "Must be nice spending other people's money," or "You wouldn't last a week if you had to work for what you have." At first, I brushed it off. I figured maybe he was just tired or stressed from work. I tried to be understanding. I even suggested moving in together to split the bills or offered to help with groceries sometimes. He flat out rejected both ideas and said they were insulting. But then it got worse. Lately, we argue all the time. He calls me lazy, a trust fund baby, and tells me I have no idea what real life is like. He even started sending me job listings, tons of them, telling me to apply, even though I've explained I don't have time with my university schedule. Our worst fight happened yesterday. He was at my place for dinner, and while I was cleaning up, he brought up yet another job posting. That was the last straw. I lost it. I told him to stop pushing me to get a job, that university is currently my full-time job. I snapped and said something like, You just want me to get a job because you're jealous that I have support." He stormed out and has barely spoken to me since. He's been texting short replies, but he won't answer my calls. I've apologized, but he said he needs time to think. Was I too harsh? How do I get him to understand my point of view? Or is he right, and should I be refusing my family's help and loading up my schedule with work and school just to be fair to him? Can we even fix this? He's seeing you succeed and wants to drag you down to his level. Don't let him, seriously. And think about this. If he's already acting this way about you getting help with groceries, how will he treat you when you graduate and start earning more than him? There's a lot of context missing here, but it depends. How much time do you have left in uni? Have you worked before? Do you have any plans lined up after graduation? I'm surprised to see the comments being so one-sided. Yes, you're very lucky to be able to focus 100% on school, but real work experience is valuable too. And if you finish uni with no job history by your mid-20s, that might hurt you later. That said, your boyfriend's approach is pretty passive-aggressive. Still, I can understand where he's coming from. He turned down your offer to help, so maybe he's trying to push you to become more independent for your own good. Maybe he sees this as something tied to your work ethic, especially if you're talking about a future together. OP. I'm in my final year of university. If everything goes according to plan, I'll graduate in June next year. I didn't mention it in the post, but I've worked before. I had part-time jobs during high school, mostly cleaning or doing admin work. I saved most of that money and even gave a little to my parents as a symbolic rent. It wasn't anything glamorous, but it's something I can include on a CV. Also, I interned at a company as part of my studies, and they've already told me they'd love to hire me after graduation. It's not a high-paying job, but it's stable and it lets me live comfortably. Update 9 days later. I wanted to post an update for anyone wondering how things turned out. A lot of you suggested I break up with him, but I couldn't bring myself to do it immediately. I really wanted to talk things out and see if there was any way we could work through this. A few days after our fight, he finally called and asked to meet up. During the time in between, I'd been trying to figure out how to help the situation. Based on advice I got here and from a couple of friends in real life, I looked into therapists nearby. I focused on finding someone affordable but still reputable, just in case we decided to try counseling. When we met up, he wanted to talk first. He thanked me for giving him space and then said something that made my heart sink. He said he needed to give me an ultimatum. If I wanted to stay in the relationship, I had to get a job and cut off my family's financial support by the end of the month. I didn't even get a chance to mention the therapist I found. I just kind of froze. I know it might sound dramatic, but in that moment, it was like the feeling I had for him disappeared completely. It was instant. Hearing him say those words, like I had to reshape my whole life to match whatever vision he had for it, just broke something inside me. And all your comments came rushing back to me. I saw it so clearly. This wasn't about work ethic or independence. It was about control. So I ended it right there. I didn't say anything dramatic. I just said, "I'm done," and I walked away. I cried all the way home. Since then, he's been texting and calling nonstop. He backtracked and said it doesn't have to be an ultimatum, just a shared goal for the future, something we could talk about more. But I know better now. There's no fixing this. I won't lie, it still hurts. This was my first serious relationship. I really believed it had potential to last. And now I'm grieving not just him, but the future I imagined we'd have. It's been hard, but I also know I made the right choice. I'm taking care of myself, leaning on my support system, and staying focused on school. I'll get through it. One last thing, I'd really appreciate your thoughts on this. How should I talk to our mutual friends about what happened? Some of them are already asking, but I'm scared that if I tell the full story, it'll just create more drama, and I won't be able to emotionally move on. I'm tempted to say that we just mutually broke up and leave it at that. The fact that he tried to walk back the ultimatum after you said okay tells you everything you need to know. He thought he could control you and was shocked when you actually left. He clearly had a mental picture of what you were allowed to have in life. In his mind, you were getting more than you deserved, and he was going to make sure you were brought down a peg. That kind of resentment is toxic. You did the right thing walking away. Please don't look back. So he gave you an ultimatum, and when it didn't work, he tried to pretend it was just a suggestion. Classic manipulation. And regarding your friends, I think it's fine to say, we had different values and priorities. It just wasn't working out. Most people will understand and move on from there. You're allowed to protect your peace. Sounds like homeboy's ego couldn't handle her tuition being paid. Love isn't about dragging someone down so that they match your struggle. That man didn't want a partner. He wanted a pity project. Am I the jerk for taking a job that conflicted with my best friend's wedding? So my best friend got engaged about a year ago and asked me to be one of his groomsmen. I said yes right away. We've been tight since middle school, and I was genuinely excited to be part of it. But once the planning started, things got weird. His fiancée, who I've never been all that close to, started laying out all these rules for the groomsmen. We were expected to buy custom shirts, get a specific haircut, attend a bachelor party at a resort that she picked, and contribute money to things we never even agreed to. It was all feeling way too controlled and honestly pretty expensive. I tried mentioning to my friend that some of it felt a bit over the top. Like, sure, I get wanting your wedding to look nice, but telling grown men what kind of haircut they're allowed to have, that felt like a stretch. He brushed it off and basically said, it's not that big of a deal, and shut down the conversation. That's when I started emotionally checking out. Fast forward to about 3 months before the wedding, I got a job offer. It was a step up in pay and position, but it required 2 weeks of relocation for training, timed right before the wedding. I told my friend immediately and said I'd do what I could to work around it. He completely blew up and said I was abandoning him, that a real friend would turn down the job for his wedding. I reminded him this was my career and that I still planned to attend the wedding itself. But here's the honest part. I could have tried harder to make it work. I didn't push back with my new employer or ask about rescheduling. I was already burned out by the wedding stress, and deep down, I think I was looking for an out. His fiancée told him the timing was suspicious and said I was being selfish. He gave me an ultimatum. Either be fully committed or don't be in the wedding at all. I told him I'd still attend, but I'd only make it back the day before the ceremony, so I couldn't go to the rehearsal dinner or the bachelor party. He said that wasn't acceptable, and I got dropped from the wedding party about a week before the big day. I was upset, but also kind of relieved, which says a lot about how exhausted I was from the whole thing. Now it's been a few months. He's still mad. He says I chose a job over our friendship. I say he let his fiancée steamroll the whole thing and tossed our friendship aside to keep the peace with her. Some of our mutual friends are split. A few think I should have just toughed it out and stayed committed. Others agree that the demands were over the top and my friend and his fiancée were being unreasonable. I admit I could have handled it better. I should have been more upfront instead of just pulling away. I also know I could have tried harder to make the job and the wedding work together. But I also think he could have been more understanding. We're adults. Life happens and careers matter. And asking your friend to alter his appearance, travel, pay hundreds of dollars, and give up work opportunities, all for your wedding? That's not just nothing. And if he truly valued our friendship, he would have wanted to see me win too. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. People who try to choreograph the perfect wedding like it's a Broadway production always end up frustrated. Something will go wrong. A true friend would have been hyped for your job opportunity, not asking you to toss it just to pose in a few group photos. Not the jerk. You probably weren't going to see this friend again until he gets divorced. If his wife already didn't like you and he's willing to let her steer the ship like that, your friendship was already on the rocks. Better to invest in the job. It has more of a future than that friendship did. Update. Things got worse, not better. I decided to call him instead of waiting a few days like I originally planned. I was feeling encouraged by some of the perspectives here and thought maybe we could actually talk it through. He answered the phone, but his tone was cold right off the bat. I started by apologizing, told him I regretted not being more honest about how stressed I'd been and how I'd handled things. I thought that might open a door. Instead, he hit me with, "So, you've been posting about this on Reddit?" Apparently, his fiancée saw the post somehow, either recognized details or someone tipped them off, and now he's furious. He said I was airing dirty laundry online for strangers to judge him and his fiancée, that I was making her look bad. I tried explaining that I used a throwaway, kept everything vague, and just needed a place to process my feelings. He wasn't hearing any of it. He told me that if I was willing to post about our friendship online, then clearly I didn't value it. Then he told me not to contact him again and blocked me on everything. Later, I found out his fiancée also texted the other groomsmen saying I was trash-talking them online. So now I'm not just blocked, I'm radioactive in the friend group. I honestly don't know how she found the post that fast. It was up for barely an hour before I called him. But somehow she did, and now the last thread of this friendship is gone. I don't know if I should have told him. I don't know if I should have posted at all. But I do know that I tried to fix it and it blew up in my face. That said, as far as I know, we've been friends for like 15 years. I don't want to completely write him off. Maybe once the wedding high wears off, he'll realize how controlling she was being and want to reconnect. But I'm not going to wait around hoping for that. I've got a solid job now and people in my life who actually support me. If the friendship survives, great. But I'm done sacrificing for people who won't meet me halfway. Reality check for all brides and grooms out there. Your wedding is just a party. It's a special one, sure, but asking your friends to bend over backwards, spend thousands, skip job opportunities, and follow appearance rules for a party? That's wild. OP, you dodged a bullet. A friendship that can't handle honesty wasn't real to begin with. Probably gonna get downvoted, but everyone sucks here, and you were kind of a coward. You didn't like the wedding demands, but instead of backing out like an adult, you stewed quietly and used the job as an excuse to bail. Then you acted surprised when the friendship tanked. So the groom really asked his friend to skip a job promotion for a haircut and a rehearsal dinner? Oh please, if my bridesmaids can't commit to synchronized blinking, they're out of the lineup too. Well, I hope the vows are as tight as your group chat rules. They are, and no one's allowed to breathe unless it matches the wedding palette. Entitled older sister thinks she deserves my bride price money. Everyone in this post is over 30. I'm engaged to my fiancé. I'm Asian and he's white. In my culture, we have what's called a bride price. It's a set amount of money the groom gives to the bride's family or to a sibling if the parents are no longer around. The amount is discussed and agreed upon by both parties, and it's meant as a form of respect and support for the family. In my culture, weddings are typically long, 2-day events. They're beautiful, but also exhausting and expensive. From the beginning, I made it clear to my fiancé that I didn't want all that. We agreed we'd be having a simple American-style wedding instead. He's fine with it. My sister, on the other hand, keeps assuming it'll be a traditional cultural wedding no matter how many times I correct her. Now some background on my family. I have a lot of siblings, and when I graduated high school, they basically left the responsibility of caring for our parents on me. My dad passed over a decade ago, so it's been just my mom and me since then. Even when my mom had a stroke and needed 24/7 care, I asked all of them for help. I made it clear I couldn't do it alone. They all said they'd help, but when the time came, they were nowhere to be found. Even my brother, who lived in the same house with us at the time, barely lifted a finger. Eventually, my mom's condition got worse. She developed dementia and needed more care than I could give on my own. She's now in a nursing home where she's getting proper attention. She's elderly, unable to handle finances anymore, and again, I'm the one dealing with it all. So the other day, my sister messaged me. She brought up the wedding like we were chatting, and again started referring to it like it's going to follow our cultural traditions. My fiancé and I haven't made firm plans yet, but one thing I know for sure is I am not doing a traditional wedding. I told her that straight up and added, none of you deserve any price money. She asked me what I meant, and I told her I'm not doing bride price because I don't feel any of them have earned it. None of my siblings stepped up to help when mom needed them. None of them were there for me either. That's when she hit me with she deserves the bride price money because she helped take care of me when I was younger. And let me give you some context here. My sister is 8 years older than me. She got married shortly after high school and moved out of state to live with her husband. So what she's calling helping take care of me really just means she babysat me sometimes when I was a little kid, maybe up until I was 10. That's it. Not full-time parenting, not years of sacrifice. Just occasional babysitting when she was still a teenager living at home. And she wants to be paid for that now? I remember just staring at my phone, not even sure how to respond. I still don't understand where this level of entitlement came from. Every time I think about it, my brain short circuits. Like, is she serious? Well, that was enough for me. My wedding plans have officially changed. She's no longer invited, and I won't be sharing any details with her. As far as I'm concerned, she can sit this one out. She's not entitled to anything. You should have just hit her with, "Mom is still alive." In our culture, the bride price goes to the parents first, and only if they both passed would anyone else even be considered. So are you really wishing our mom would pass just so you can get your hands on some cash? It's disgusting how she's trying to twist this into some inheritance battle while your mother's still here and needing care. If there was a bride price, it should go straight to your mom or toward her medical bills, not to some sibling who conveniently vanished when it mattered the most. This is giving babysat me twice equals lifelong compensation energy, and it's hilarious if it weren't so sad. Like, I'm sorry, but she thinks helping with homework or making you cereal when she was 16 somehow translates to bride price eligibility? Ma'am, that's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. You're not the mom, you're not the caregiver, and you definitely don't get paid like one. Your sister's out here talking about traditions, but if we're really being traditional, the bride's family usually pays for the wedding. So maybe ask her how much she's planning to chip in before she starts counting imaginary bride price money. Because at this point, it sounds like she's mad she won't get a payout for doing the bare minimum 2 decades ago. It's amazing how people remember things differently when they think there's money up for grabs. OP's sister really thinks she deserves that money, even though their mom is still alive? Yep, all because she babysat her, like, twice in the 90s. That's not caregiving, that's existing near a child. Crazy how fast some people start reaching when money enters the chat. Would I be the jerk for telling my wife to show me her phone after I got an email accusing her of cheating? Plus update. I, 47 male, have a comfortable and fulfilling life. I work a job I genuinely love, live in a nice suburb, and I'm blessed with 3 wonderful kids who are 8, 6, and 4, and a lovely wife, Emily, who's 45. I've always believed that Emily and I were an ideal match, but a recent email has deeply unsettled me, planting a seed of doubt in my mind. Emily lived in the UK between 2010 and 2015 while pursuing her PhD. During that time, she formed many close friendships and has since made it a priority to return every couple of years to maintain those connections. This past August, she traveled to the UK for 3 weeks to attend the wedding of one of her close friends. After some discussion, we decided it would be best for the kids and me to stay home. I couldn't take that much time off work, and the kids likely wouldn't have enjoyed the event much. Emily departed, returned as planned, and life resumed its normal rhythm. However, last week, I received an email at my work address that threw me off balance. The email supposedly was from the wife of Emily's friend, Jake, 44 male. According to this woman, she suspects that Jake and Emily had an affair during Emily's visit. The email detailed her suspicions. Jake picked Emily up from the airport, spent significant time at her hotel, and the two frequently went out for dinners alone. She also attached pictures to bolster her claims, including one of earrings she said she found in Jake's pocket while doing laundry. The earrings looked identical to a pair Emily owns. There was also a picture of a lipstick stain on Jake's shirt in a shade I recognize as one Emily often wears. The email contained other points of evidence, but for the sake of brevity, I'll leave them out here. At first, I thought it must be some kind of cruel joke, and I tried to push it out of my mind, but it keeps creeping back. I recall that before her trip, Emily often spoke with her friends in the UK, and looking back, I think she might have communicated with Jake the most. I also remember Emily saying she didn't like Jake's wife, though I don't know the reason. I've never invaded Emily's privacy by looking through her phone or social media accounts before, but I'm finding it hard to resist the temptation now. Still, I know I'd feel awful if I looked and found nothing. At the same time, I worry that if I start acting suspicious, Emily might delete anything incriminating before I can see it, assuming there's anything to delete. I'm struggling with how to move forward. Part of me thinks the best approach would be to confront her directly and ask to see her phone on the spot, leaving her no time to delete anything. However, I fear this would deeply upset her, especially if she's innocent, and might not even yield any answers. I'm at a loss for what to do and would greatly appreciate guidance on how to navigate this situation. Would I be the jerk for telling my wife to show me her phone after I got this email? Edit. I forgot to include, my wife no longer has these earrings. She wasn't wearing them when she returned, and when I asked, she said she lost them. Update 10 days later. A few hours after sharing my first post, I confronted Emily, and she confirmed my fears. She admitted to the affair and claims she's in love with Jake. She told me she couldn't live a lie any longer. According to her, she still loves me and the kids, but she insists she can't stay with us anymore. She said she had been waiting for a better time to tell me and the kids. Apparently, this relationship has been going on since March, with Jake occasionally flying out here so they could meet in secret. We are getting divorced. Emily has decided to move to the UK soon. She revealed that during her trip in August, in addition to attending the wedding, she went to a job interview. She's set to start working there around the new year and has already applied for a British visa. She plans to live with Jake when she moves. As for custody, Emily has voluntarily agreed not to pursue full custody of the kids. She doesn't want to uproot their lives, so they will remain here in Canada with me. While part of me appreciates this decision, I'm also shocked at how easily she's walking away. She has offered to pay child support, but I feel conflicted about accepting it. I'd rather raise my kids without her financial involvement. However, the court will likely require her to contribute regardless of my preferences. Emily is also requesting structured visitation rights, which will almost certainly be granted. The tentative arrangement is for her to visit the kids during school breaks and holidays, along with virtual calls in between. Our lawyers are still ironing out the details, but it seems this will be the way forward. We're also discussing what to do with our family home. Emily wants to sell it and divide the proceeds, which seems inevitable since it was purchased during our marriage. While I would prefer to keep the house for the kids' sake, it's unlikely I can afford it alone. For now, no final decisions have been made, and our lawyers are working through the details. Until then, I've been advised not to make any financial moves. As much as I'd like to stay here with the kids, I understand that selling is probably unavoidable. Emily has temporarily moved into an Airbnb, and Jake has flown out to stay with her. They plan to travel back to the UK together at some point in the near future. Legally, my lawyer has explained that adultery doesn't play a significant role in determining custody or property division unless marital funds were used to finance the affair. It's unlikely this will make a difference in court since Emily claims she used her personal account to pay for her travels and other expenses. Unless evidence surfaces that she used joint finances, this matter won't influence the legal proceedings. I've been in regular communication with Eleanor, Jake's soon-to-be ex-wife. Initially, we spoke through email, but recently we've had a few phone conversations. Eleanor has apologized several times, saying she feels guilty for exposing the affair. She worries that if she hadn't said anything, my marriage might have been salvageable. I reassured her that, for me, knowing the truth was better than continuing in the dark. The gravity of the situation made divorce unavoidable, and I'm grateful she told me. She even sent me additional evidence of their relationship, but since Emily has opened up to the affair, it doesn't hold much legal significance anymore. Eleanor has shared a lot about Jake, and it seems this isn't his first affair. According to her, this is the third time he's cheated, and she's had enough. She says there's no chance of reconciliation, and Jake doesn't seem interested in trying. She also mentioned that Jake has no desire to raise kids who aren't biologically his, which explains why Emily isn't fighting for custody. Eleanor's divorce is shaping up to be much more complicated and contentious than mine, and she and Jake are battling over full custody of their kids and can't agree on several other issues. These past 2 weeks have been a blur. I've been overwhelmed with everything, but one thing has become clear to me. I have nothing left for Emily. It's not just the betrayal of our marriage, it's the way she chose so easily to walk away from our family. I never imagined I could hate someone I once loved this much. It's a strange and unsettling feeling. The hardest part of all of this is helping our kids cope. My 2 youngest daughters have started asking why their mother isn't around as much, and it's been difficult trying to explain the situation in a way they can understand. My eldest son seems to grasp more of what's happening, but he's become quiet and withdrawn. It breaks my heart to see them hurting, and I'm doing everything I can to provide them with stability and comfort. Thankfully, my family has been an incredible source of support. My kids have received thoughtful letters from their cousins, which I've been reading to them each night. My siblings have sent gifts for the kids, and one of my brothers, along with his wife, visited us over the weekend. My sister-in-law even prepared meals for us, some of which I've stored in the freezer. They kept the kids entertained while I met with my lawyer, which was a huge help. My other siblings have also offered to come by and look after the kids whenever I need them. My parents have been calling daily to check in on us. My 78-year-old mother has already made plans to stay with us for 2 weeks in November to help around the house. The collective effort from my family has made this ordeal much more bearable, and I'm deeply grateful for their support. To everyone who encouraged me to confront Emily after my first post, thank you. I was tempted to ignore Eleanor's message, but your advice gave me the courage to act. Emily has shown her true colors, and it's clear to me now that her idea of a better time to confess was simply when it would cause the least inconvenience for her and Jake. Update 2, 1 month later. I know that Emily often traveled back and forth to the UK during our marriage. She claims that her affair with Jake only began in March, but I'm convinced she's lying. It's almost certain this has been going on for years. Given how much she's already prepared by the time I confronted her, it's clear to me and everyone else that she had been planning this for quite some time. In fact, within a few short days of our confrontation, she already had certain legal documents prepared. Jake arriving in Canada shortly after I confronted Emily made it obvious they had planned for her to tell me roughly around this time. It makes sense that Emily was well prepared and just waiting until everything was better lined up for herself. She had long since applied for her visa, secured a job, secretly appraised her car, our family car, though it was under her name, and sent personal items with Jake to the UK during his secret visits, all right under my oblivious nose. I have a feeling I'm only scratching the surface, and I have no real idea of how far this actually goes. Not that Emily would ever tell me the full depth of it. On top of all of this, Emily had already been in touch with her lawyer long before I confronted her. Taking this into account, I wonder if she secured her job even earlier than she let on, perhaps to make her actions seem less calculated. Two of Emily's friends have since reached out to express shock and disappointment over her actions. One of them, Janet, mentioned that according to another friend, Emily had been consulting her divorce lawyer as far back as late August or early September. This friend also confirmed my suspicion that Emily had been sending some of her belongings to the UK during Jake's visits. I'd been losing sleep, replaying the past few months in my mind, driving myself a little crazy to be honest. Despite all of this, I was blindsided and I completely blame myself. Looking back, I can see the signs I ignored. I guess I didn't think Emily was capable of this sort of betrayal. A part of me wonders if this outcome could have been avoided had I been more assertive and vigilant in the past. The worst part is that my kids are now dealing with the consequences of my ignorance. While I twiddled my thumbs, my wife had essentially started a new life. Most people in my life now know about my separation from Emily. I've stopped wearing my wedding band and explained the situation to friends and colleagues who noticed its absence. One of my close friends, along with many people who reached out privately on Reddit, has suggested I get a DNA test for my kids, given Emily's travel patterns and tendency to lie. While I understand where they're coming from, this is something I'll never do. I could never assign my kids to another man. Nothing would ever change that. Life without Emily has been difficult so far. Mornings are a hectic rush. Between getting the kids ready and getting myself out the door, I'm barely on time for work nearly half the week. It's frankly exhausting trying to keep up with the extra parenting duties throughout the day. Our current home has a large driveway, and I'm already dreading shoveling it once the snow starts falling. The kids are feeling the strain too. They don't particularly like the food I prepare, and they hate how busy I always seem to be. It's incredibly frustrating to know that while we're struggling here, Emily recently departed for a relaxing vacation through Europe with Jake. Communication between us has dwindled, and I only learned of this trip recently. I have no idea if she plans to return to Canada after her vacation or settle directly into what will likely be a very comfortable life in the UK. On a more positive note, I managed to get the kids to see their doctor recently. She gave me a bunch of useful resources and advice, emphasizing that time and clear communication are the most important factors for their adjustment. While I'm optimistic, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't worried. It's still early, but they remain quite upset about the entire ordeal and act out regularly as a result. It's abundantly clear they're having a hard time adjusting to our new reality. One of the hardest aspects of all of this has been making decisions about our family home. After considerable thought and many conversations with my family, I'm leaning towards selling it. Emily has already offered me a bit more than half of the proceeds since she sold our USV right before leaving the country. My lawyer has noted that selling the USV before we finalized anything was premature on her part, especially considering I contributed significantly, 40%, to the purchase. He thinks I have strong grounds to seek reimbursement elsewhere in our asset division, which aligns with Emily offering me more of the house. Getting more than half seems fair, given I contributed about 65 to 70% of the down payment and monthly mortgage payments. The family SUV was registered in only her name, but I covered a large portion of the costs. It's frustrating that she sold it like that. As I've learned over the past several weeks, my sedan is too snug for the kids and inconvenient for my mother when she runs errands. I'll need to trade it for something larger. In return, Emily has insisted I keep the furniture and appliances, which is the least she could do. While part of me would like to stay in our current home, it's probably better for us to move. I hope this might help us avoid future interference from Emily, though in reality, she's just as likely to interfere no matter where we are. I've been looking at townhouses closer to my work. This would cut down my commute and place us near a well-rated school. However, my sisters pointed out that moving now would mean the kids have to change schools and lose their friends, which would be another big change for them. I've heard nothing from Emily's family, and frankly, I have no interest in reaching out. As for Emily's future with Jake, I don't wish their relationship to fail. The longer her life is stable, the less likely she'll disrupt ours. But I take solace in knowing she remains unaware of Jake's infidelity history. I feel no moral obligation to warn her about his character, and Eleanor feels the same way. I've made a point to check in on Eleanor regularly. She doesn't have the same family support I do. Her immediate family is charmed by Jake's wealth and believes she should do whatever it takes to keep him, even though it's clear neither she nor Jake wants reconciliation. I'm so sorry, man. Nobody deserves that pain. I've been carrying it around with me for 15 years. I hope you're luckier than I am and meet someone new. Cheaters are the lowest of the low. She's abandoning her own family for this. Not a soul to be had. OP. It is what it is, I suppose. Cheating is one thing, but I'm still stunned she's walking out on her family like this. I would have never imagined she could do something like this. Am I the jerk for not changing our daughter's name? My husband, 29 male, was just 2 years old when his parents divorced. 2 years later, his father remarried a woman named Sharon. Sharon and my late mother-in-law, who passed away when my husband was 8, were on very bad terms. According to Sharon, my mother-in-law made her life miserable and tried to get custody taken away from her and my father-in-law. Sharon also claimed that mother-in-law attempted to remove her from the picture entirely. Sharon believes that the only reason my husband never called her anything other than Sharon and has always viewed her as an outsider is because of mother-in-law's influence. However, father-in-law's own siblings have said Sharon's portrayal is not accurate. They stated that while mother-in-law and Sharon-in-law disliked each other, mother-in-law wasn't as malicious as Sharon and father-in-law claimed. At worst, mother-in-law could be dismissive of Sharon's role and didn't view her as an equal parent, but she wasn't the cruel person they described. When my mother-in-law passed away, my husband's relationship with his father and Sharon deteriorated significantly. My husband forbade them from attending the funeral and told them that if they tried to come, he would run away until other family members took him in. He recounted this to me himself. Father-in-law and Sharon said they feared my husband might lash out at them, and since Sharon was pregnant at the time, they ultimately gave in to his demands. They now claim my husband hates them for not being there. However, he has said that their decision to stay away was one of the few things they did right, though he hated that he had to resort to yelling and threatening to run away to get them to listen. By the time I met my husband in college, he had very limited contact with father-in-law and Sharon. This hasn't changed much, even in recent years, despite a slight increase in communication. He also made it clear to me early on that he never intended to be particularly close to them. Sharon refers to my husband as her son and even introduced herself to me as his mom. She seemed shocked when she realized I knew otherwise. I've only met Sharon and father-in-law a few times, as my husband is much closer to his extended family than to them or his half-siblings. Recently, I gave birth to our daughter, and we named her after my late mother-in-law. My husband chose not to invite father-in-law or Sharon to meet her, but they learned about her name through social media. After finding out, they reached out to my husband, questioning the choice. Then, a few days ago, they approached me at the mall and asked to speak with me. They expressed their hurt over the name and accused us of deliberately trying to hurt Sharon's feelings. They even suggested we change our daughter's name, proposing that we name her after Sharon instead. I firmly told them that we would not change our kid's name to accommodate Sharon's feelings. I explained that their feelings about the name were not a factor in our decision and walked away, unwilling to continue the conversation. Since then, we've been bombarded with text messages from them calling me rude and disgusting for dismissing Sharon's feelings. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. Sharon seems to be suffering from main character syndrome. The name of your kid has nothing to do with her. Your husband barely has a relationship with her. Suggest therapy. I'm 28, female. My boyfriend, who's 29, and his best friend, 29, female, are going on a week-long vacation. They uninvited me, plus update. My boyfriend wanted to go on a vacation this summer to his mom's friend's house in Hawaii with me and his two best friends, 25 male and 29 female. We had been planning on this all spring, and at some point, 25 male dropped out of the trip, leaving just the three of us. For context, my boyfriend and I have been going out since November, and it's been serious. We had, and still have, been talking about moving in together, and he has said, and I agree, that this is a long-term situation and that we are a good fit for it. In early June, once his male best friend unexpectedly dropped out of the trip, 29 female best friend called my boyfriend and told him that now it was just the three of us, and she didn't feel comfortable with me going on the trip since she didn't know me that well and she didn't want to be a third wheel. She said if I were to go, she wouldn't go on the trip. Without telling me that this was happening, they changed the plans and made it a trip just the two of them were going on, and they changed the location to a beach in Costa Rica. I was trying to figure out when to ask for time off this summer and hadn't heard news about the plans, so I asked my boyfriend which week in August I should be setting aside for the Hawaii trip. He let me know that, actually, he had talked to his friend and that she didn't want to go if I were going, so he was just going to go alone with her to Costa Rica. He said that we could go another week, maybe to Mexico City or something. I was upset and tried to talk with them about how the situation made me feel, especially since this wasn't a case of a separate trip being set up ahead of time. This was a case of me being invited and then uninvited from a week-long tropical vacation with a girlfriend of his who I had never met before. We eventually decided to do a trip together to Copenhagen, which we had both wanted to visit for a while, as some sort of compensation. I also asked to meet her so that I could feel more comfortable with the trip. We spent the 4th of July going to see her and her boyfriend in the city where they live, and although it was nice to put a face to a name, it was ultimately a very cold trip and she was not at all welcoming to me. My boyfriend remarked on how unfriendly she was, to both of us, he thought, and said that he was surprised that she didn't act warmly towards me. I went out of my way to try to get to know her and her boyfriend. I'm very outgoing and friendly, and usually this would be easy, but it didn't really click, even after several days. They were somewhat cold to each other as well. They bickered a little bit about their future and his own 3-week trip without her that was scheduled for the same time as their trip. This had been scheduled before ours had. This had been my effort to feel better about the trip, so I told my boyfriend that I still didn't feel comfortable with things and that I was feeling insulted by the way that it was handled. I had tried to make things smooth between all of us, and I asked him to please come up with something that could help me feel better about the trip. On a visit to his family, they asked about the trip, and they were all shocked that he had arranged it in this way and let me know that they would have been furious if they were in my position, which triggered a fight in which I asked him to please help come up with a strategy to make me feel better and more secure about them going together without me. He said that he would never do this kind of thing again, which feels like not much to offer, since this is kind of a once-in-a-lifetime trip to begin with. He kind of offered to not go on the trip, but he had already paid for the tickets and made arrangements, and I didn't want to stop their trip and be resented by both him and his best friend. He asked me to give him ideas of how to make me feel better and wanted me to just tell him what to do, and stalled until it was finally the day of the trip. He bought me a bag of peanut butter cups, and I drove the two of them to the airport. I feel so disregarded and disrespected in this situation. I want to break up with him, but I don't want to burn up something that has otherwise been really good. Update. I was really upset the day I dropped him off, and he was texting me, but I wasn't responding. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, but I didn't want to do anything at all in the state I was in. I waited until the next day, and then I sent him a thought-out text letting him know that I didn't feel safe or loved in the way the trip was handled and that I would be dropping his things off at his place and leaving his keys with a neighbor. He called but didn't leave any messages, and then he messaged me that he didn't understand. The rest of the week he called and messaged me, but I couldn't bring myself to pick up or text back. On Thursday, I think he realized that I was serious, and he asked me some questions about logistical things. I told him which neighbor has his keys, etc. When he got back and saw all of his things at his place, he got pretty frantic and called and left me a long message. I was working all day, but also I still didn't want to respond. He asked me to explain because he didn't understand what was going on. The next day, I sent another text making it clear that it was over, and he got upset and sent me a bunch of texts in a row about how he didn't understand why I was throwing everything away that we had built. He left me a voicemail that was really angry that said he had no idea why I was upset and that he did not accept the breakup because he had no say in it, and he wanted me to tell him the evil story that I had made up about him to his face. I wasn't going to respond to him and I wanted to remain calm, but this upset me, so I sat down to write him this letter. I tried to call him, but I started crying and told him I'd just send him an email instead. This is what it said. The time that we had apart has given me some good space and time to think. I've had a chance to think about the things that are important to me in a relationship, and I see that we should not be together. I'm sorry that I've been asking for you to change things about your life that you shouldn't have to change, at my or anyone's behest. From the very start, this trip was made in an insanely disrespectful way in which it started out from you being given an ultimatum by your female best friend who I had never met that either she goes or I go on this trip, and you picked her. You didn't offer to have her meet me. Theoretically, I was your long-term partner, so this would have made a lot of sense. You didn't encourage her to find someone else to come, and you didn't consult me at all. That's enough for most people to have a deal breaker right there. However, I stayed. This is a person who you have a history with that is not entirely clear to me. Here's what I understand. Some bad rumors got started about the two of you in which you spent an entire night out with her on a trip while you were dating someone else. Nothing happened. The other thing I understand is that you were interested in her romantically at some point, and that she started dating her boyfriend, and that closed the door on things for you. According to what I also understand, it took a very long time for her boyfriend to feel comfortable with you being around, But you apparently worked to ultimately make him feel comfortable with you after I'm not sure how long. This is the completely unknown person who shut me out of a trip that I was originally going to go on. You did not tell me this was happening until I asked when the Hawaii trip would be. You purchased tickets in another very disrespectful situation in which I've cooked dinner and have guests present, and you chose to go into my room for well over an hour to select tickets with her, and in which I repeatedly asked you to please come to dinner because you say it will just be a few more minutes each time. There's absolutely no reason for doing it at that time and in that situation, seeing as how she's in the same time zone as us and has a 9-to-5 job. This makes me feel sick to my stomach. I cannot handle your relationship with your friend, and I suppose I could ask you to pick between her and me, but that's not what I want to do. I want you to have your best friend, and I want to leave. I did love you, but I'm not about to pick this fight and hear you tell me that I'm crazy for not seeing how totally platonic everything is for the rest of my life. It seems like trying to convince someone to like different food or to have a different favorite color. I'm not happy with this, and I do not want to feel these feelings any longer. There's no need for this to be mutual. I do not need your permission to break up with you. He wrote me back an apologetic email in which he accepted responsibility for most things without any argument, except he denied anything that had to do with his relationship with her, making me feel uncomfortable, and he denied that I would not be able to handle their relationship. He said that the only thing that made their trip bad for me was my own perspective. I wrote him back that trust has to be built and that he put too much strain too early on a relationship in which we had not developed that trust. He agreed and apologized. For me, it ended on a pretty amicable note, but this style of relationship really doesn't work for me, and I don't feel like his responses to me really healed or changed anything significantly. I stand by my decision at this point. Karen lets her dog smell people's food in the restaurant, gets kicked out. Let me set the stage. It was a busy lunchtime in the bustling streets of New York City, and I was on a mission to pick up my salad from a popular chain. I love dogs, I really do, but there's a time and a place for everything, and near my food isn't one of them. As I entered the restaurant, I noticed a woman holding her dog in her arms, not in a bag or a harness, but fully cradled like a baby. I didn't think much of it at first. This is New York after all, but then I saw it. The dog's nose and paws were practically in people's food. The pickup shelf was at the perfect height for this curious pup, and it was sniffing around like it was on a treasure hunt. And those flimsy lids that didn't quite cover some of the containers were no match for this eager snout. Then it hit me. Before I walked in, I had seen this very same dog outside. It had done its business. Yes, right on the sidewalk. Its paws had stepped squarely in the puddle it left behind. And now, those very same paws, glistening with New York City sidewalk grime and doggy dew, were dangerously close to people's food. My appetite vanished. I couldn't keep quiet. I said something along the lines of, "Hey, I don't think it's cool to hold your dog so close to people's food. That's pretty disgusting." I was polite but firm. I thought that would be the end of it. I'd pick up my order and leave, and she'd maybe reconsider her life choices. But oh no, she had other plans. I walked out, and she followed me like a heat-seeking missile, her voice echoing behind me. "It's a service dog," she shouted, as though that fact somehow invalidated the reality that her dog's urine-tainted paws had just been practically in someone's Caesar salad. I turned to her, still trying to keep my cool, and said, "What does that have to do with you holding it so close to other people's food? Service dog or not, it's unhygienic." She wasn't having it. She kept repeating her service dog mantra as if it were a shield against all logic and reason. I tried to suggest alternatives. Couldn't you just put the dog on the ground or in a bag or literally anywhere other than where people's food is? But no, she was not interested in problem solving. She was interested in shouting at me. At some point, I realized I was wasting my breath. This was a battle I was not going to win. So I turned and started walking away. But she wasn't done. She kept following me, yelling who knows what as I tried to make my escape. As I was walking out of the restaurant, I noticed the manager had been watching the entire scene unfold. He came over and told the woman that her behavior wasn't acceptable. He explained that the restaurant had a strict policy about pets in the dining area and that for health and safety reasons, she was not allowed to have her dog in the restaurant or in close proximity to customers' food. He asked her to leave, and she was escorted out. So while I walked away, feeling a bit victorious for speaking up, I was also glad to see that the manager took action and addressed the situation. The restaurant was still a place I could trust for a hygienic meal. And maybe, just maybe, that woman would think twice about holding her dog up to other people's food in the future. Not the jerk. Service dogs don't get up on counters to smell people's food. Service dogs are supposed to be well trained enough to be in public without causing health issues. Even if it was a service dog, Unless it's helping her read her name on the labels, it has no business being near people's food. Personally, while I love dogs in general, the entitlement of some people with their dogs and other people's space is disgusting enough that I've told restaurant staff about the health violation of having a dog on a tabletop and had the staff make them put their dog on the floor. So you're not the problem here. She is, and her so-called service dog ruins the reputation of actual service dogs everywhere. Imagine your mom bans your partner from Thanksgiving, and as a result, you get ultimate revenge on her. That's exactly what happens in our next story. It just popped up on your screen. Give it a tap, come have a listen. You won't believe what happens next.